the moment the decision came to go all into something, we grew it from our apartment, which was my first store. People used to buzz up to my second floor to come buy out of my closet. My son was an infant and a little toddler at that time, and he was crawling around looking at our customers who were walking into our apartment buying from us. We used to have a wireless debit machine I would take payments on, and I go to all these different conferences, powwows, trade shows, and I would sell there. We grew it from that to a little office, and from the office to a kiosk, from the kiosk to our first store. And throughout this whole process, there was no blueprint for me. I didn't have many people I could rely on. I couldn't ask for help from someone who looked like me, because at that time we were the first Indigenous brand in Canada to ever do this in the mainstream, to have our own branded First Nations line in the mainstream with our own store. No one else had ever done that. So I couldn't just call people. I was very alone. And throughout that process, I had to learn how to hire people, to work with people, to delegate. I had to learn how to design, to do accounting, bookkeeping, and so on. And throughout this whole process, I was tested a lot. I had people who came for opportunities. I had people who just wanted to take something. Sometimes I came in the form of theft. I even had my first bookkeeper try to steal from me. He tried to forge a check in my name. I had so many obstacles at that time as a young 20-some-year-old entrepreneur trying to make his way in the mainstream. It was very difficult. And then I had to also pair that with I faced a lot of racism back then. Man, like it cracks me up to this day, because that's my way of showing you that I've had to work through that. I had to work through a lot of that racism, discrimination when I first got started. Because when I was on that kiosk, I heard everything. You hear every conversation, that all the words that are uttered under people's breath when you're in the mall. You hear all that. And it was very difficult for me back then. I shed a lot of tears. It really hurt my confidence, my self-esteem. And then as time progressed, when we started to get into the stores and we started to have more stores throughout Saskatchewan, then I started to wholesale. I started to do custom orders for corporations. I started to have e-commerce set up. Then I started to realize that I was starting to also get and run into a term called lateral violence. Some of it was from my own people. And I wasn't prepared for that. And it was very difficult going through that whole process. As time went on and people started to hear about the Nietzsche Gear story, they said, Kendall, why don't you come and share that story to us? Why don't you come and share that story to our event? We'd love to bring you in. So I went to elementaries, high schools, colleges, campuses, and it started to snowball from there. It started to snowball into a career. And then I had to make another decision. This feels right to me. At the time, I said, this feels right. So I put all of my energy into becoming the best speaker I possibly can with what I have, through storytelling, by trying to help leave a message of hope to any audience that I come in contact with. And I had to make some decisions. And in time, I went from having stores to focusing on doing everything online now. Everything I do. Even a lot of the engagements I do is online to this day still. Just so I can have time to be able to be mobile, to go to different events now, to have time with my family. Because at that time in my career, when I had all the stores, dozens of employees, I had no time. But sometimes you have to go through something to give another opening, another door for you that you're meant to walk through. And the only way for that door to open is you have to go through stuff. Everything starts up here. And if we want to get better our life, we have to look at what's been inputted up here. Our habits, our belief system, even about ourselves, and what we believe we can accomplish. And if we don't like the way things were over here, doesn't mean that we can't change it for the future. And I hope that today it's giving you some sort of spark to keep moving forward in a positive way. And there was many people along my path that saw something special in me that I couldn't see, because I grew up very timid, very shy. I had no self-esteem. I didn't have mentors growing up. And sometimes we're not meant to have something because we're meant to be that person for another human being. And I hope that you can become that leader, that mentor for the people around you and the people that you serve in the future.